Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a critique of Stranger Things. Warning! If you really have a problem with horror, then don't watch this video, and don't watch Stranger Things, because they're both pretty scary. Or at least they have horror elements, and if that disturbs you, don't keep watching this. Secondly, I'm going to be spoiling a bunch of this show, and it's generally, pretty good. Season 1's really good, and Season 2's okay, and Season 3's got some good parts and some bad parts, and yeah, we'll get into that. But if you're interested in watching the show, and you haven't, you should probably do that before watching this, as it will make more sense. Spoilers, if spoilers bother you, this is a lot of spoilers. And I figured I might as well just start by explaining what made Season 1 so good. And not just good, but uniquely good. Stranger Things opens with a black screen and then some text, giving you the setting and the time. Now there's this YouTuber by the name of Tommy Innit, and one of the strategies he uses when making his videos is he gives them very lively captions.
Bazookas! Hello, big hole. You feeling, bud? Okay.
Now, I'm not saying Stranger Things put this text on the screen for any reason other than to just inform us about the time and the date and whatever, but it's interesting that this is the first thing we see. The very first interaction you have with this show is reading some text. So one of the things this does for the show is that from the very beginning, the audience was going to be looking at the screen. Not just looking at the screen, you're always looking at the screen when you're watching a movie, but they're going to be paying attention because there's text on it. And your very first impression of the show is that this is a show you need to be looking at and paying attention to. Because in order to read, you have to be paying attention to what's on screen. And it's only on screen for so long, so you have to read it quick, and then it's reinforced because there's more text. And of course, anyone could figure out why the text is there. The text is there to show you what's, to tell you where the show is set. It's set in Hawkins. And as far as the different ways that this information could be conveyed to the audience, this is probably one of the most elegant. Are you just going to have a character be like, hello, welcome to Hawkins? No, I mean, you could show a roadside sign or something, I guess. However, roadside signs actually convey a certain amount of meaning. This is a very efficient, effective way of getting this information across. And yes, I've been talking about the opening, just this general text on the screen for a while, but there's actually depth to it, okay? So there's this guy running down a hallway. And the first thing you'll notice is that this is an unusual setting. It's a lab. And the second thing is that he's wearing a lab coat, so he must be a scientist of some kind, right? Okay, so we got more information. We're being shown this information, not told this information, and it's all happening in a scene where a character is doing something. Can we just appreciate how fast that guy pressed those buttons? Wow. Some people might think that classic horror is kind of cliche and boring and that we need to upgrade horror or whatever. But really, just glancing down a hallway or around corners is scary. And it's scary because you don't actually know what's around that corner. And so of course you do have to establish that there's a monster, which this show is doing in the first couple minutes of the show. I think it's literally by full runtime, it's the first 2 minutes of the show. And once a story has that monster, the filmmaker can just pretend that it's around every single corner. Little glances around corner heightens the tension because that's what you want. And so here we have the scared scientist, dark hallway, scared scientist, slow zoom on the scared scientist, slow zoom on the scary hallway, and then he looks up. And all we're left with is a sound.
It's not the Demogorgon.
Oh, but it is. Now, Lovecraft is quoted as saying that one of man's greatest fears is the fear of the unknown. In fact, I think he said it was man's greatest fear. And this has informed my #1 rule of horror movies, which is don't show your monster. And if you have to show them, don't explain them too much. To demonstrate, I would like you to play a little game with me. I'm going to play a sound, and you are going to guess what that sound is. Here we go. What do you think you just heard? Was it perhaps a lawn appliance? Yeah, that doesn't exactly sound like a lawn appliance. How about this? Would you say that also sounds like a lawn appliance? Probably not, so here's some visuals. This is in fact the first shot we get after that horror show in the lab. We get a sprinkler making creepy sounds. And I'd like to point out this is a very effective juxtaposition because we see something fairly familiar in the lab, but then someone dies by being yanked into the ceiling, which is really weird and out there. And so immediately we get a sprinkler, which is a very ordinary object and recognizable in the real world. And so it's a grounding. And then on top of that, it's still creepy because it's making this freaking like, it's making this sound, okay? So it's still creepy. It's not a joke. It's not like we went from a scientist getting yanked into the ceiling to like some dude buying hamburgers or something. That would set a completely different tone. Sir, one of the scientists has gone missing. Oh, that sounds bad.
I want you to call for a press conference now.
Call for a press conference?
Yeah, Hogan,
what on
drive.
earth for?
Cheeseburger first.
And so the fact that it can keep the creepy tone while still grounding it.
A shadow grows on the wall behind you, swallowing you in darkness. It is almost here.
Yet again, the tone is retained. It's still creepy, but we're drawn from something scary to something real and sort of wholesome. Some children playing a game. Need I remind you that this show, including credits, has only been going on for 2 minutes and 10 seconds at this point. We've already learned about the world, we've learned about something dangerous, we're introduced to these characters, and the tone has been set very effectively. We know what's going on, and we already have a sense of what's going to happen.
The Demogorgon!
And there's a dangerous thing going on, which heightens the tension.
I can't find it! Hi! Is it Mom, we're in the middle of a campaign!
You mean the end?
Notice here the imposing camera angles, even for something as wholesome as The Mom, or some kids playing D&D. Notice how the lighting is very dark and a little bit foreboding. Without being like creepy, it doesn't feel bright and happy. It helps transition out of the dark tone without abandoning it entirely. So we're not cutting to a happy rose petal patch.
Sunshine, lollipops, and...
But we're not feeling gloomy.
Freaking idiot! We have to go. Mom, wait! Just 20 more minutes!
And here, Mike endears himself to the audience with a very simple and familiar word. Well, words. Just 20 more minutes. Like, who has not said that, and who has not heard a kid say that? Every single person on Earth has probably said this, okay? Or some version of this in their language.
I'm serious, Mom. The campaign took 2 weeks to plan. How was I supposed to know it was gonna take 10 hours? Dad, don't you think that 20 more
I think you should listen to your mother.
And with that, we are firmly back in reality, and we've just been introduced to, 6 characters in 60 seconds? Like, yeah. So we have a group of friends, and we presume each of them has their distinct personality. We've met a little bit of the personality of Mike, and we've learned his name.
Michael?
We've met his dad, and we've met his mom, and we've learned that there's a relationship between the characters. We learn it, like, right here with this dialogue.
don't you think that 20 more
I think you should listen to your mother.
And because of all this relationship stuff going on and how human it is, and how familiar just generic family dynamics are to humans, we can't help but start to think of these people as people. Like, these characters are now people in our minds. And I have become very surprised by how many shows fail at this basic thing. Like, really. And then secondly, these characters are introduced in a way that feels almost wholesome. There's no hatred going on between these characters. It's a son wanting to continue playing his game that he's been playing for 20 hours, a dad who's saying, listen to your mom, and a mom who's saying, enough already, you've been going on for 20 hours. And this shows a certain amount of love on her part, where she's like, I let you guys do this for 20 hours, and a love on the kid's part, where he's like, good point. It's so cool. Added to this is the cinematography, where Mike and his mom are both placed like center stage in the camera because they're going to be relevant, while the dad is placed off in the background because he's a side character who I don't even remember his name because he doesn't matter that much. He doesn't do anything in the story, but the fact that he exists fills out like a hole in the universe. Like, if Mike just didn't have a dad, that'd be a bit weird.
Barbie, hey, Nancy. There's a slice left if you want it.
Hold on.
First impressions are very important, as we're often told in film class, and writing class, and life. And yeah, it's true. First impressions are really important, especially for characters, because in an efficiently told story, they inform things about the character. And this is true of this scene. In fact, this scene could get a whole video breaking down and explaining why it's such a great introduction to these two characters. We are shown Dustin being friendly. We are not told Dustin is a friendly person or he's nice or whatever. No, we are shown him being nice. And we are shown Nancy being not very accepting of that. Not even like really acknowledging him, just slamming the door in his face. And then Dustin goes and talks to his friends and he's like, hey, Mike, your sister's weird now. And immediately, we have more relationships. Mike now has a mom, a dad, and a sister.
What are you talking about?
And apparently, his sister's changed. We learned this. I mean, it is kind of said to us, but this is the beginning of the show. We're not going to be able to learn that the character changed without someone just stating it. And so, really, what does this scene tell us? It tells us that Dustin is nice, or at least wants to be nice. He's a better than average person. We're shown that Nancy is about an average person, or at least she's acting like one. She's not acting mean, that is kind of mean, but she's not throwing the pizza in his face or anything. She's not being a bully. Like, she's not trying to hurt his feelings. She's just not wanting to be bothered with that right now. You can still empathize with this rudeness right now because there's a reason for it that makes sense.
Right back to my place. Winter gets a comic.
Any comic?
Yeah. I didn't say go!
Notice anything? Yeah, it got really quiet. That's because the music was pretty loud, actually. And they need that music, or else the scene's a little bit dark and creepy, because it's some kids biking through the darkness. And even though they're friends and they're having a lively chat, the upbeat music helps emphasize the fact that this is a wholesome scene. Even though it's shot in the dark, it's a wholesome scene.
Right back to my place?
And this helps uplift the tone of the show without shattering it. You're feeling happy because the music is happy, and that can be taken away in an instant, which is immediately what happens. I just want to appreciate real quick for a second how amazingly skilled these actors are and how awesome it is that they all happen to be in the same place at the same time. Notice how the show still hasn't shown you the monster. It's just shown characters looking at the monster. And honestly, the characters who are looking at it, I don't think they even know what they're looking at. Because they all keep seeing it in the dark. What was this? I mean, I know they have a flair for our ordinary objects being creepy, but really, it's a tire. So Will rushes back home in the dark, chased by some kind of monster. This is the first 5 minutes of the show, and we're introduced to some characters, and then one of them is being chased by a monster. And we already know a decent amount about what's going on already. We know there's a monster. We believe it probably escaped from this lab. We know the characters are friends. We have a connection to them. They're children, so we already care about them a certain amount just because humans do that for those little guys. And then we get to find out something else. Will knows how to use a gun. And so he goes and hides in the shed, gets the gun, and points it out at the door to shoot whatever thing is coming for him. He's smart, he's dangerous, he's ready, but he's absolutely terrified. And then everything just goes completely wrong. This show keeps like putting a normal object on the screen, like in focus, that's the only thing you can see, and then it plays like a really creepy noise. Also, Will's gone. If you want to see the first 8 minutes of Stranger Things, it's on YouTube on the Netflix account. It's free. I actually use that for a lot of the footage. Hopefully Netflix is okay with it. It's public. It's already public. So thanks for making it to the end of the video. Please like and subscribe and the things. I hope you enjoyed. This isn't kind of normally what I make on this channel, but I like these videos. I like this show. So expect me to make more, and maybe next time I'll write a script.